Monday, October 10th, Board of Commissioners meeting. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'll just give Hank a second here to slide on in. We waited for you.
I know you did. I appreciate it.
First up, I'm going to come down to the podium. I have a certificate of appreciation for the League of Women Voters. Come on down there. I'm going to invite up Gail McCluskey, Barbara Schrodenbach, and Linda Solt. I hope I got all your names right. It's my handwriting, and my lips don't always work right. The Board of Commissioners want to thank you for your valuable contribution to the community by placing a bulletin board. I believe it's in the lobby on the side. Yeah. And we want to thank you for doing that at no cost to the taxpayers. So on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, I'd like to thank you personally for doing this and helping us out. Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. We have a request for waiver of fees from the League of Women Voters. So I'm going to ask Kayla to come back up.
No, I'll move the approval of the waiver.
Second.
Okay, let me get my pen out here. Okay, any board discussion on this? Any public comment on this?
You didn't explain what the purpose is.
It's a meeting. They're having a meeting.
It's the candidate form.
Oh, the candidate form? Oh, okay.
Yes, that's what it says. It's called the candidate form.
Yeah, this is a request for waiver. The League of Women Voters holds a candidate forum. This is a nonpartisan event. It gives all elected officials and all candidates for office an opportunity to have a debate in a public place, and they've chosen the Township building. Years ago, we did not charge fees for the use of our public space. We do now. And we do, in many cases, waive those fees when they are pure public, for pure public benefit. So motion's already been moved. Second, no more board comment at this point. Any public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Just
Motion
one-
carries 7-0.
Just one question. I haven't got anything about the debate. Are we going to get something from the League of Women Voters? Questionnaire, resume, anything, or what's happening?
Well, we were waiting to make sure the fees were waived first, but
Okay.
the parties are notified. The forum will be Monday, October the 17th at 7 o'clock here for the odd number wards.
Okay.
And so you will get further information shortly.
You can say the odd commissioners, too.
The odd commissioners.
Okay, thanks, Galen. I have a presentation from the Radnor Historical Society as part of the Historic Plaque Program. I'm going to invite up Ted Pollard, and I don't know if Greg's here, Greg Pritchard, and also Andrea Pilling.
Hi, I'm Andrea Pilling. I live at 706 Church Road, and I'm representing the Radnor Historical Society along with Ted and Greg. And I'd just like to read something to you quickly about the presentation, and then we would like to actually present the plaques. We have 12 plaques to present. This, by the way, is the work of a committee at the Radnor Historical Society. A group of several people have worked for about 2 or 3 years to put this program together. So Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming, and to the Board of Commissioners, thank you for agreeing to have us to present the markers at your meeting. We appreciate all of your support. We're so happy that the marker recipients are here to be honored for the first presentation of the Radnor Historical Markers. Before we award them, I'd like to give everyone a brief overview of the program and its significance. This program, which is solely administered by the Radnor Historical Society, has been in the works for over 2 years. Historic marker programs exist all over the country, and it's fitting to introduce such a program to Radnor, which is in the heart of historic Pennsylvania. Beginning with the land grant from William Penn, on which Radnor was built, we are fortunate to have a plethora of historic homes and buildings which date from the 17th through the 21st centuries. By recognizing these homes in a formal and visual way, through the use of historic bronze markers, we hope to make the public aware of these architectural treasures and to encourage the preservation of our historic resources. We are striving to include all types of historic buildings, including those from modest twins to large estates and everything in between. Our goal is to be inclusive rather than exclusive, and to preserve architecture from a multitude of different economic, social, and architectural arenas. Thousands of buildings in Radnor could be eligible, from houses within and outside historic districts to commercial buildings in more downtown areas. To reiterate what has already been stated and what's on our website, and what we presented to the Board of Commissioners last year, properties don't need to be within a historic district, but they must meet general guidelines established by the Radnor Historical Society. Markers are awarded to buildings that were built before 1945, unless otherwise determined by the Radnor Historical Society, that are of particular architectural or historical significance, that contribute to the significance of the neighborhood, and that are well maintained and/or that retain their character and integrity of their design. Marker eligibility is solely based on the building's exterior. It does not restrict paint color and will not require any additional township historical review. This is strictly a voluntary program and is not related to township ordinances or the Historic Architectural Review Board. So let's get started. We have 11 recipients and 12 properties, and I think most of the recipients are here, I'm not sure. The plaques will be distributed in no particular order. They are all equally important for different reasons. When Greg Pritchard calls your name, plaque recipients, please come up and accept your plaque and stay up here for a picture. Also, I'm warning you, they're really, really heavy. He'll read the information on each marker. Some plaques have more information than others because of the amount of information we found about each building and the amount of information we could fit on each marker. We have included the date or approximate date that the house was built, and in some cases, the original owner, the architect, the developer, and/or the builder. There's more information about the program on the table over here and about Radnor Historical Society membership. And you can also go to the Radnor Historical Society website, which is www.radnorhistory.org/marker. And there's, as I said, there's information on the table. We hope to expand the program, and the more plaques, the better, because it will be an educational program for everyone, and it's great for owners. So why don't we get started? Could you help me lift this?
Okay, well, as Andrea said, there are 12 plaques. Perhaps symbolically, the first one is for the Finley House, which is the headquarters of the Radnor Historical Society. And here to accept it is Ted, obviously. And we've actually called it on the plaque the Captain John Pugh House. Pugh was the original owner, and the original part of the house was built in 1789. So there it is. Now the next three plaques are for Kathleen Papa, owner of the Thornhedge estate in St. David's, and also for the carriage house of Thornhedge. So,
Thank you, Greg.
Sure.
Thanks. Thanks, Ted. Can you turn around and just stay up here? I don't have one you can get one. Do you want to read? Oh, you good.
and Thornhedge was built in 1903. Next is the house at 142 West Wayne Avenue, which was part of the original Drexel and Childs development of Wayne, and the owners are Bruce and Sandra Gilbert. The next house was originally known as Isle Field, built in 1911. It was renamed Almondbury House, and it's now owned by In Faith, which is an American mission located at 672 Conestoga Road in Villanova. Next is a house which was originally called Bon Air, built in 1889. It's located at 425 Chestnut Lane in North Wayne, and the owners are Chris and Jill Stavrakos. And I guess they're not here. Next is the Nathan Matlack House, which is located on Darby Paley Road, and the owners are Jamie and Holly Holt. Next is the house at 221 Lenore Avenue. Jonathan Lengel was the builder, circa 1921 to 22, and here for that is Martha Dale. Next is the house at 124 West Wayne Avenue, which was built circa 1881 to 84, also part of the original Wendell and Smith Drexel and Childs development. And Quad N LLC is the owner, and Dave Norsini should be here, I think. Or maybe not. Next is a house at 200 South Aberdeen Avenue, which was built between 1890 and 1893, and the owners are Stephen and Suzanne Schutt. Next is the house at 134 Poplar Avenue, which was built circa 1904 to 1906, and the owner is Amy Marin. And finally is Quintera, which is the home of William and Andrea Pilling. It was built circa 1808 to 1814 for John Hampton. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to publicly thank the Radnor Historical Society and Ted Pollard, Greg Pritchard, and Andrea Pilling for getting this project done. These plaques clearly increase the charm and character of the neighborhoods, and I think this is something that we really appreciate. So thank you again for coming out tonight to do this.
If I could just interject as well, I want to say thank you to the Historical Society. This is an extraordinary project because it gives these people the recognition and gives them some pride in what they've done with their homes. I myself live in a house that's over 160 years old, and it costs money, it costs time, it costs patience to keep a house like that up. So the whole community is grateful for all the work you do in keeping those. It lends such character to our community. So thank you for doing it, and to the Historical Society, thank you for recognizing it.
All right, at this point, I'll open it up to public participation. If you have any comments you'd like to make before the rest of the meeting continues, please come up and do so. You will have an opportunity to speak before any public vote on any item on the agenda tonight, and there will also be public participation at the end of the meeting. So if you'd like to come up and speak, please do so now.
Seeing none, let's move on to the minutes.
Okay.
I'll move the approval of the minutes of the public meetings. I'll move the approval of the minutes of the public meeting of September 26, 2011.
I have some edits that I'd like to mention. The first, on the first page, the last paragraph, it says that we presented a person with a plank. I don't know if that's correct, but I think plaque would be more appropriate. Page 3, I had a question whether or not Commissioner Spingler moved and Commissioner Higgins seconded. I don't have a recollection of that, but maybe if anyone else does. That's on item 2011-24. And I had one other on page 6, SD 2010-D-08. It says President Fisher moved. I'll have that, recommend that change to announce that this be postponed. I did not move. I did not motion. The motion was by Commissioner Spingler, and it was seconded by Commissioner Schaefer, and the motion passed. I have one other edit. Two more. Page 8. 2011-BT-04 was in the amount of $66,000. It just says in $66,000. And the last edit I have is page 9, the second paragraph under public participation. It says, he also agrees with the solicitor that the information released is enough to avoid giving any information that could hinder any document. It should say could hinder any transaction. And that's all of my edits at this point.
And I just have one on page 3 where it says Commissioner Spingler moved to approve. I'd like it changed to move to accept. This is regarding the departmental reports.
Okay. Any other edits?
I have a couple typos. First page, certificate of appreciation for the Norberth ambulance. It's Zaslow, Z-A-S-L-O-W. Chagrin is spelled wrong on page 5 under Public Works and Engineering. Under Finance and Audit, Sarah, if I remember correctly, you stood up and said that Villanova and other asked people if they wanted that money refunded. This says withheld, and that's pretty significant. And then under Old Business, I had raised the issue of the LGBT anti-discrimination, and then Commissioner Fisher announced that we would consider it in subcommittee on that following Tuesday. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other suggestions? Seeing none. Any public comment on the agenda? Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes with the changes that were stated, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. In fairness to the person that's preparing the minutes, it's very difficult to do this while watching a videotape that is 3 to 4 hours long. And the Board of Commissioners are presented an advance copy of this, but quite frankly, between Friday and Monday, we don't have a lot of time to wordsmith. So our apologies for not getting that done sooner. Okay, at this point, we'll move into the committee reports under Public Safety. Commissioner Mahoney.
The first item is acceptance of staff traffic minutes of September 20th, 2011. You have before you the minutes. Any questions or comments?
I have a comment. I was in attendance at this meeting. It shows that the that we would continue the discussion of the parking on Garrett Avenue. At this point, it looks like we're going to be bringing an ordinance to the Board of Commissioners to extend the parking limits at Emlyn Tennell Field. So I expect to see that on the next meeting agenda for introduction. But it doesn't exactly say that. It actually doesn't address that at all. So I just want to clarify that.
I'll move the acceptance.
Second?
Any other board comment? Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
The next item is the motion to authorize request for bids for pay and display parking kiosks. You have before you a memorandum from Superintendent Colarulo. Bill, would you like to address this and explain the program for us?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. One of the things we're looking at to not only produce more parking spaces for downtown Wayne, but we're trying to make it more user-friendly. As it is right now, the meters we have, if you don't have exact change, then the problem is you have to run into a store. Sometimes you come out, we get a lot of complaints that by the time they get back to the meter, they already get a parking ticket. The kiosks we're looking at, there are a couple of good features. First of all, they're solar powered, so we save on electricity. The other thing is our capital budget that the township manager has us looking at every week for 2012, 2013. There is money in that capital budget to replace or repair existing meters. If we go with these kiosks, we can basically do away with 590 of the meters that we see that basically are an eyesore and are antiquated right now. Another advantage with these kiosks, again, you could use all different types of cash, you could use credit cards and things like that, and it would be a lot better to help, I guess, mediate the parking problem, especially for some of the restaurant workers as well as the people that visit downtown Wayne.
Yeah, I'm familiar with these things because they put them into Philadelphia within the last couple of years, and they're, aside from a couple of glitches here and there when they first started the program, they seem to work pretty well.
Yes, they do, Commissioner, and they have different styles too. Now, the ones they have in Philadelphia, they are solar powered. It basically looks like, if you're familiar with the old-fashioned mailboxes, it looks like that, and the prompt is self-explanatory. You put the money in. When you get enough time, you hit a little green button, a little ticket pops out, you put it on your windshield, and you're good to go. The other advantage is sometimes we have a problem with meter feeding, whereas there's a 2-hour limit. People go out and they just keep putting quarters in the meter. This only gives you 2 hours, and it's a ticket that's posted. I was in New Hope on Saturday night. They have similar kiosks that are a little different. They basically attach to a pole, but the ones we're looking at are very similar to the ones in Philadelphia.
So physically, the kiosk, there's one kiosk for a whole bunch of spots in a lot?
That's correct, Commissioner. Imagine if that podium right there was a kiosk. That podium would be, say, in the center of the block. There would be no meters, but there would be parking spaces. You would go to that kiosk, put your money in, get the little ticket out, go back and put it in your windshield of your car. So we're looking at 4 of them.
So are we going to dig up and remove all of the old meters?
Yes, and they won't go to waste either, but what we'll do with the old ones is we'll use them for parts for the meters that we're not replacing with kiosks.
So maybe when we dig up and jackhammer up all of the old meters, we can use this as an opportunity of maybe doing some vegetative planning and getting some stormwater, help in those lots?
Hopefully, yes.
Okay.
And the other good thing, too, especially in the South Wayne lot, by going to the kiosks, we're going to increase parking spaces, hopefully by 10, because of the kiosks as opposed to the meters.
Okay.
My guess is the commissioners will be improving the budget then for allowing for that additional vegetation and that. So we'll look for that from the commissioners to add that extra money into the budget then. I'm sure Steve will like that in his part of his budget as well.
I'm sure Steve will love that.
Well, actually, could we get an estimate of at least the removal of the existing meters, Bob? Steve, I don't know who would be, because I've seen the removal of meters in other towns where they simply just chop off the pole and it becomes unsightly and,
I think we'll do a much better job than that. But I think what the superintendent also speaking about too is being able to utilize those parts for other meters.
Sure.
And then as a bigger plan to addressing a number of these issues too, with parking in some areas where instead of having to go there 2 hours, they could be expanded for 3 or 4 hours. So if you wanted to catch a movie and dinner, you didn't have to keep worrying about that 2-hour process and then be able to shop.
Okay,
And
good.
Bob, will the RECT contribute funds for this?
Well, there is a request that's been put in to them. I believe it was submitted by Bill Martin, and awaiting response.
At this point, I'd authorize the request for bids for pay and display parking kiosks.
Second.
Any other board comment? Any public comment on this motion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
The next is adoption of ordinance 2011-20 regarding no parking on Banbury Way. This was introduced at the last meeting. I'll move the adoption.
Second.
Any board comment? Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
The next item is adoption of ordinance 2011-21, 21 regarding a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit on St. David's Avenue. This also was introduced at the last meeting. I would move its approval.
Second.
Any board comment? Public comment? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
The next is the adoption of ordinance 2011-22, which would amend an earlier ordinance 86-37, reading Lancaster Avenue to St. David's Avenue, change to Lancaster Avenue to Midland Avenue. Again, this was introduced at the last meeting, and I'll move its adoption.
Second.
Board comment? Public comment? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Finally, adoption of ordinance 2011-23, amending ordinance 86-38, reading Lancaster Avenue to St. David's Avenue, change to Lancaster Avenue to Midland Avenue. I'll move its approval.
Second.
Board comment? Public comment? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
The next is adoption of ordinance 2011-24 and 2011-25 to amend earlier ordinances, ordinance 1252, dated May 25th, 1965, which instituted a 2-hour parking restriction on both sides in the 300 block of Midland Avenue. This would go to the south side of Midland Avenue for the indicated hours. So I would move the adoption of this ordinance.
Yeah. No, it's eliminated on both sides, and I'll second it.
Eliminate both sides?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, board comment? Public comment? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
All right, the next item is resolution number 2011-130, declaring October 24th through October 30th, 2011 to be a Red Ribbon Working Week, working toward a drug-free community. And I'd like to read this resolution, if I could. Whereas alcohol and other drug abuse has reached epidemic proportions and is of major concern to all Americans, with the American people indicating that alcohol and other drug abuse is among the most serious domestic problems facing the nation. And whereas alcohol and other drug abuse is a major public health threat and is one of the largest causes of preventable diseases, disability, and death in the United States, costing the American society many billions of dollars per year in lost productivity. And whereas, although such substance abuse does not discriminate on the basis of age, race, gender, or socioeconomic status, the problem is not insurmountable as demonstrated through the efforts of the Office of Behavioral Health Division of Drug and Alcohol to combat and prevent the illegal use of alcohol and other drugs. And whereas such efforts include participation in the National Red Ribbon Campaign, a comprehensive public education and community-based prevention event involving township and borough municipalities, schools, parent groups, churches, government, business, and persons from all walks of life in demonstrating their commitment to a drug-free, healthy lifestyle by wearing and displaying red ribbons as a symbol of their commitment to such a lifestyle. And whereas it is necessary to convey the message that any use of an illegal drug is unacceptable, that there is no safe use of drugs, and that illegal drug use will not be tolerated since such abuse undermines our economy, threatens our national security, adversely affects productivity, and ruins and destroys lives. Now therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Radnor Township hereby declares October 24th, 2011 through October 30th, 2011 to be Red Ribbon Week, working towards a drug-free community. And be it further resolved that we commend the hard work and dedication of all those concerned individuals and groups for their efforts to eliminate alcohol and other drug abuse and to promote a drug-free society. And I'll move the resolution.
Second?
Board comment? Public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
That's all I have for public safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mahoney. Commissioner Higgins, Finance and Audit.
Excuse me. The first item on the agenda is a presentation by our auditors, Larson Allen. Bruce, are you going to handle this, or is your colleague going to handle it? Okay. I don't know. Bill, do you want to give any introduction, or do you want to just hand it off to them?
I will hand it off to Bruce, who will take it away. If you've got any questions or anything that you need our input on, please just let me know. Just pop up. Oh, it's on? Oh, good. How do I move it? Okay. How do I advance the slides, Bill?
Open the laptop.
Where is it? I got it. Sorry. Sorry, I got it. Sorry. Well,
That was easy.
now that we have the technology out of the way, thank you very much for having us tonight. My name is Bruce Bronowell with Larson Allen. I have my colleague here with me, Kristen Deisler, who's the in charge on the audit for Radnor Township. What we're here tonight is to give a 2010 audit summary, how the audit went, the results at a higher level for the commissioners. The audited financial statements, management letter, and audit committee letters have all been vetted through management and approved. We do have a signed representation letter as of today. So I just turn your attention to the PowerPoint and we can go through the summary. The good news for the township is that we are going to be issuing an unqualified opinion, and that's both entity-wide and on a fund level. Again, good news for the township of Radnor. That means that nothing came to our attention that would lead us to think that the financial statements were materially misstated in any way. The financial statement highlights, and we've been through this with the commissioners earlier. There was a new GASB government auditing or accounting standard that came out this year that was effective as of December 31st, 2010, which involved your swaption, which I believe you got involved in back in 2004. The accounting standards want the township to book any liability that you would have as a result of this particular swaption. As of the end of 12/31/2010, about $1.9 million is on your books as a liability, and again, this is entity-wide financial statements only. There is an embedded derivative of $71,000, so in total we're still looking at about $1.9 million. And it did result in a prior period adjustment to the financial statements. And you will see that in the final audited financial statements as presented.
Can you walk me through that?
Sure. And in what way, Kevin?
Can you back it up?
Sure.
So, did we take the $520,000 adjustment? Did you have to increase our liabilities by $520,000, or?
Yes, we did. We increased your liabilities by $520,000 as of 1/1/2010.
Okay.
The remainder of the adjustment to get to the 1.9 million actually occurred in this year.
And the $71,000 embedded derivative, if we take this to term, that goes down to zero?
That's actually valued every year, Kevin.
Right, but at the end of the term,
It would go down to zero,
Right.
yes. And again, it has no impact on your general fund. It's an entity-wide adjustment only.
and if we play this out to the end, were we basically hedging somebody else's interest risk?
That's what you did, yes.
Okay.
And right now you have a liability to pay back. You took advanced money back in 2004, and that's just the accumulated interest on
And
that.
the interest
liability.
rates have moved against us in the structure.
Absolutely. We've seen liabilities actually a lot larger than this, so,
Begs the question of what's the role of government?
right. Any other questions on the swaption? If not, moving on to some additional highlights, your other employee benefits, which really include your health care benefits, that liability did increase by $3.3 million during 2010, which means as of the end of 2010, you had about $9.5 million in a liability. Your entity-wide deficiency was $10.6 million as of 12/31/2010, and obviously we're getting pretty late into 2011, so those numbers have changed, but just know that that's where you stood as of the end of 2010, mainly due to the OPEB liability. And I think we've been through this when this standard was put into play 2 years ago. Your unreserved general fund balance actually not in bad shape as of 12/31/2010, approximately $5.2 million. And that means about 3 months worth of expenditures. And I think we've communicated that's right in the ballpark as to what we're seeing with other municipalities. If you can get that to 5 or 6 months, that would even be better. Your total
Just
increase...
out of curiosity, I mean, I understand a little bit element to that, but one could argue that's a little bit of premature taxation, that we're carrying citizens' money too soon.
I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think every municipality should have some money put aside, and I think the taxpayers would certainly understand that.
Well, you said 5 or 6 months.
5 or 6 months of expenditures.
6 months is 50% of our annual budget.
Right.
But
I
in
think it's-
defense of that, the revenue for the township is lumpy, so we can go long stretches of time and have to carry the cash flow of payroll
Right.
during those gaps.
Right.
So-
I mean, you have, years where you're collecting taxes, at a more favorable pace. Your Act 511 taxes, for example. You might have a year where that collection isn't quite as strong. So we've just been recommending trying to get up to 6, but 3 months is not bad for a township. Any other questions? Key points in the management letter, and we did release the management letter today. We tried to really prioritize the check signing process, and again, a lot of these management letter comments when we came in 2 years ago, I think management's really working hard to get these resolved. They're working with the CARFAC to get the management letter points addressed, and we think by the end of this year, going into 2012, a lot of these issues will be resolved. And what we always like to say when we come out, we don't like to see repeat management letter comments. But in fairness to Bob and to Bill, they're relatively new in their positions, so we're giving them a mulligan. Key points check signing. We're looking for thresholds on live signatures, an accounting policies and procedures manual, which will include a lot of accounting related procedures. Purchasing, cash receipts, cash disbursements, payroll, all of those will get put into one accounting policies and procedures manual. Documentation and oversight of the wire transfer process. We're not suspecting anything's going on. We just want that process tightened up. Segregation of duties over payroll and disbursements. We worked with CARFAC on that. They pointed out some things during the audit that we also noted, and we're hoping that those things can get resolved by the end of this year. And then some IT-related issues. We're looking at disaster recovery, getting that in place, and really working to get some solid password protection on some of your information. And again, that full management letter will be available to you. It's actually in Bob's office. Our required communication to governance, which...
I didn't want to ask the question in case you had some more. Bob, Bill, or Bruce, is somebody going to show us the recommendations over the last 2-3 years and show the progress that's been made versus what's still outstanding, or not?
Yes. I mean, that will be communicated to the commissioners.
And actually, if I could jump in, as one of the functions of the CARFAC, one of the subgroups within the CARFAC is dedicated toward the audit process, and we're working with them on creating the matrix of the different comments and where they're at in terms of process. And when you read the management letter, you'll see some of the management responses that identify the progress that has been made on many of the items during 2011.
Is that okay, Kevin? Okay. Moving on to our required communications to governance, which is really to the commissioners this year. I think next year it'll be to CARFAC and the commissioners. Our responsibilities under generally accepted auditing standards and generally accepted accounting principles. This will all be communicated within that letter, which will go to you. Disagreements with management, we had none. Timing and the scope of the audit, that's also communicated, and the next slide actually talks about the timing and scope of next year's audit, which is fast approaching. Unmade audit adjustments, we had none. And then key estimates, which are essential part of any financial statements. We list 5 key elements there, including the swaption evaluation and the pension and post-retirement benefits. Other matters of significance are really highlighted in the management letter for this year. Our timeline going into the 2011 audit, it's much more aggressive this year with the help of management. We are working with management to make sure you get back on the GFOA Certificate of Excellence program. That deadline for submission is June 30th. So we fully expect our audit to be completed by that time. Final approval of the financial statements by mid-May 2012. So we're really being aggressive with that timeline, but we think after 3 years we can work with management and get things back on track. We thank you for the opportunity to be the Township's auditors, and we welcome any questions.
When will we see the reports, Bob? Bill?
Pardon?
When will we see the report, the letter?
I can give them to you in 5 minutes if I go upstairs and get them.
So basically today, tomorrow.
Yeah, you can stop up to the office. They were delivered before, so you can get them tonight before you leave. And they'll post on the website too tomorrow. Tomorrow will be posted on the website.
I don't have any questions. Just comment, thank you for the hard work. We've come a long way, I think, in the last 2 years since you've come on board. And I know personally that a lot of things have been addressed and are being addressed actively right now, so that's good news.
And that's all we can ask, John.
Yeah, a lot of internal controls being built in. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the schedule of bills payable 2011-10A. A grand total of an authorized disbursement of $662,207.72. These bills have been approved by the respective department heads, verified by the Finance Department, and within our budgetary limits. So I make a motion to approve.
Second?
Any board comment?
Yes, please note my recusal on the handful of issues involving office basics.
I'm sorry, I got distracted. Any other board comment? Any public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is Resolution 2011-125, acknowledging the receipt and the accounting of the 2011 General Municipal Pension System state aid amount, which was a little over $400,000 in excess of what we anticipated in the budget. But I think if I'm understanding what we're doing, Bill, we're taking that in, but at the same point in time, we're going to make an adjustment on the general fund so that we're not contributing as much. So net through the entire budget, it's the variance is zero, correct?
Well, the variance will be the a little over $400,000. That'll be a positive variance to the general fund. What the table on the summary is indicating is where the variance is coming from. The additional state aid will decrease the amount that the general fund will have to allocate for this year only. So the impact to the bottom line in terms of is a positive $400,000 variance.
Walk me through that. Walk me through that again. If we're decreasing our contribution from the general fund, doesn't that basically?
We got extra money from the state, is that in essence what?
Yeah, that's basically
Right.
it.
But we're not doing is funding the pension plan. We're reducing what we were going to spend out of the general fund, correct?
For the pension plan, yes. Because on the expense side, the 2011 minimum obligation was set. So we just got a greater contribution from the state, in which we received a letter just today reaffirming the fact that that was a one-year uptick in the amount per unit, and that future years should be planned on based on prior year's amounts. So,
What is the reason? I mean, why was there an uptick this year?
well, their explanation seemed to indicate a timing difference in the way the state collects the tax on, I believe it's foreign insurance in the state of Pennsylvania. I'm about 90% sure on that part of it, but it explained a timing difference, which, to be perfectly honest, I didn't fully understand either. But they said,
Don't count on it again.
yeah, they said this was basically one-time revenue coming in for them, which means it'll be one-time offset for us.
Thanks.
I made a motion to approve.
Second?
Board comment? Public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, in our package, there was a 2012 proposed budget calendar listing a set of dates and actions running from October 4th through December 12th. I assume they're on the table at the back, so I'll make a motion to approve the budget calendar as proposed.
Second?
Board comment?
Well, I just want to say this preliminary budget we all did receive on the 7th. I don't know if it's on the website. I'm assuming it is. Such an excellent piece of art. It was very, very well received. It's a wonderful job. So much detail. I mean, really, we've come a long way. So thank you, Bill.
And all staff for being, it's a team effort from what I understand, more so than it has in the past, so thank you. That was moved and second. Any public comment on that? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
There's also an item for the 2012 discussion items and the 2013 budget calendar to try to get us a little bit ahead of the curve. So, Bill or Bob, do you want to just give a highlight of what this is about?
Sure thing. This is a continuation, or this is the product that was discussed on Tuesday night in the Special Finance and Audit Committee, basically identifying some of the major items that affect the township in some fiscal way. So the plan is for each of the months, there are certain items that are identified for discussion, and if approved, special meetings would be set up for each of those months specifically to discuss those items. And as we proceed through the year and decisions are made on direction for each of those, we'll actually be building the 2013 budget as we go, so that when September rolls around, we'll be in a better position to prepare the plan for the 2013 budget, having had the discussions on the major items as we go along.
So the concept is it's at the back and probably on the website, it's a 2-page document. The calendar that lists the months lists sort of the high-end agenda items in that specific month, and then the second page is the more detailed items that will be covered. For example, under January, where we cover capital equipment, you got funding replacement. Under fiscal policy, you've got 5-year forecast, budget policy, cash reserve policy, and so that's the more detailed agenda for that meeting. Got it. Yes. I make a motion to approve.
Second?
One procedural question. If we wanted to change this in the middle of next year, would we have to pass another resolution, or should we build something into that now so that we can make minor modifications to it? Or is it not necessary?
It doesn't appear to be a resolution.
My guess would be is that this is a plan, how to follow, and can deviate that, and we'll just a matter of us make sure that we keep it
So
updated
we
to the
can
public.
make minor
and-
changes
You
to
can
it
change-
without,
You can change it along the way.
Change it any way we want.
And I'll just suggest, after looking at this list, that many of these items are complex and are not necessarily easy to deal with in a normal meeting. So what I'll be suggesting is that we have at least one additional meeting in many of the months. Some of the months may be combined, but the benefit of having a separate special meeting for these items is probably a good idea. So just want to acknowledge that is the idea of this for all of next year. So any other board
my
comment?
sense is they would be better sent to committee meetings. So same idea, separate meeting, but at a committee level.
They can, when appropriate, when there's smaller subcommittees, but some of these items are financial, so therefore it is committee of the whole. So that's true, absolutely true. There are questions about staffing, that would be personnel administration and whatnot. So, point taken. Any other comment? Any public comment? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Next item on the agenda is Resolution 2011-126, approving an interior fire and sprinkler system for the Kreuzberg Center. I think I understand it. The mainline school night paid for the money, and we're just paid for the improvement, and we're reimbursing them for that. Is that accurate, in the amount of $90,000?
That is accurate, yes.
Make a motion to approve?
Second?
So a couple of weeks ago, we approved an amendment to spend $400,000 out of the capital budget. Is this coming from that?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Any other board comment? I'll just state the obvious here. The CBFAC committee had raised questions about a policy having to do with the acquisition of land, and we didn't have a policy in the past, and we're probably going to have a policy in the future. This is an example of unintended consequences. We acquired land, and sometimes in the acquisition of land, we acquire facilities. And when we do that acquisition, we want to make sure that we know what we're getting. In this case, we're having to spend a lot of money today for a decision that was made quite a long time ago, and it would have been nice if we had known that getting into the arrangement in the first place. So I hope that this helps drive policy for the new year. So that's my only comment. Any public comment on this item?
John, I don't think that's quite accurate. The reason we have problems at Kreuzberg is because we did not, the township as landlord never properly stayed on top of the building and maintenance of the building. It wasn't because we bought a Salzier. That was
John, actually, in this case, this is $90,000 for a sprinkler system, and I would imagine that sprinkler systems were required in commercial properties in the year we purchased the property.
I doubt it very highly.
Okay. disagree. Any public comment on this item?
Hi, Jim Schneller. I was wondering if it could go out to bid, or was it bid, or could Mainline School Night show us any proof of a bid process, even though they might not technically be required to?
They will be able to do that. They did go out for bids for this, so be more than happy to get those.
Yeah. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
That's it for finance and audit.
Thank you, Commissioner Higgins. Public Works and Engineering.
Yeah, first, we have
Commissioner
appreciation
Scanlon.
thanks of the North Wayne Preservation Society for the Stream Cleanup Day.
You mean the North Wayne Protective
North
Association?
Wayne Protective, well, it says Preservation, Protective Association Society.
Thank you.
I wondered where the preservation came from. I figured it was part of the Historical Society, something.
It's a subcommittee.
Oh, okay. Well, what happened? Hank, do you know what happened?
We have two certificates
Okay.
here that were presented to me for signature. We
Here-
have.
Here's a gentleman here to
Here to
accept
collect
it.
them.
Yes. Is this Mark?
Yes.
Let me come down, and I apologize. It wasn't. I'll read the certificates. The first one reads, "Thank you for your efforts to the support of the community through volunteerism. The efforts of you and other members of the North Wayne Protective Association in cleanup of the Gulf Creek are to be lauded. As the oldest continually existing civic association in the nation, organizations such as yours continue to be the leader in the community. Your stewardship of the Gulf Creek benefits many, and it's appreciated by the Radnor community. So on behalf of the Board of Commissioners and the Radnor Township, I'd like to thank Mark Hirschler for your efforts on this. And also, we have a second certificate for Gail Morrison. She had to leave. Okay. Well, I'll give you both. Is that okay? So thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
efforts.
Appreciate it.
To follow up on that, I think this was one of the recommendations made by Chagrin Valley Engineers, that is to coordinate with community groups such as an NWPA to clean out the streams, to make sure that the water is getting through there in an efficient manner to prevent or at least minimize the flooding. So we thank the North Wayne Protective Association for your efforts in that regard.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to move the resolution for the award to the lowest qualified bidder, East River Energy, to supply diesel fuel at $3.16 a gallon.
I'll second that. Bob, I have a question, or John. Is this a sole source contract that we're committed to buy for these guys, or from these guys, or if the, Steve?
Yes, this is actually the same contract we had last year with the same adjustments based on base fuel price. This year it's just odd because two different contractors, two different suppliers won the
You
bid.
touched on the ultimate point of my question. So if the prices vary significantly, there's adjustments, it's not a fixed price?
Correct.
Okay, any board comment on the resolution 2011-117? Any public comment? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I'd like to move the approval for the lowest qualified bidder, Petroleum Traders, to gasoline at $2.93 a gallon.
Any board comment? And that was $2.93 a gallon?
That's what the resolution,
Okay,
Yes,
I
sir.
just want to make sure. I thought I heard two. I'm going to be off by a penny here.
$2.93.
Okay, great. Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Yeah. Because of the extra trees we had to take down that were safety hazards, there's a request to authorize a change order for tree and stump removal with the grinding contract to Jimmy Tree and Landscaping in the amount of $21,500. I'll move the approval.
Board comment?
Well, can I ask you, some of these things, these trees on the schedule were definitely came down from Irene. So can we allocate those to the emergency funding section of our budget so that we could maybe get reimbursed?
The labor we put out for Irene was all put in with our FEMA application, as well as our waste costs, the hauling to the dump from all the people's houses with any damaged goods, as well as our truck time and fuel usage. As far as these specific trees, some of them, I guess, could be attributed to Irene, but some are just on that schedule are trees that need to come down. I don't know that we can specifically apply them at this point to the FEMA submission.
You don't think? I mean, that one, that humongous tree at Willows that went into the pond, that was right after the storm.
That was actually the tropical storm. That was the July 29th storm. It wasn't Irene.
Okay, well, it's worth a try.
Okay, any board comment? Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I'd like to move the award of ADA compliant door installation at Radnor Memorial Library to the lowest bidder, Automated Access Systems Incorporated, in the amount of $24,770.
Okay, any board comment? Any public comment on Resolution 2011-122? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I'd like to move to approve the award of traffic signal and flashing warning devices preventive maintenance inspection and maintenance service contract to Charles A. Higgins and Sons Incorporated in the amount of $9,210. The lowest bidder.
Have a second? Board comment? Seeing none, public comment. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I'd like to move the award of Township Engineering Services to Gilmore and Associates Incorporated for a base fee for 2011 and 2012 for a base fee of $40,000 per year.
Second, and I have a question. Do we have in place an ordinance which allows us to pass along or recoup from developers and others land development review fees and things of that nature?
Yes, we do. It's in the subdivision land development ordinance.
And this $40,000 base fee is first, and then all of the additional fees that are incurred due to those plans, I would imagine, are in addition to the $40,000.
All the plan, and we started this in June of '09 because it hadn't been done prior to that. It's on the books. It's been on the books. So we have now in place, or since then, and with the administration change, it's taken some time to implement an agreement that gets signed that binds the developer for a formal plan, actually for a sketch plan too, but binds the developer to reimburse the township for its engineering, its legal, any other professional consultant that's involved. And then that gets billed out of the township to the developer, and we get reimbursed.
It's difficult to do when you have in-house engineers, easier when you have outside engineers because they simply give us a bill.
Right.
We turn around and give it to the developer.
Actually, we had started it with the prior township engineer, but it was a little spotty coming in, and but it was started back then even.
You know, the in-house folks generally aren't attuned to keeping their time and that sort of thing, and
right.
So, okay.
Commissioner, if I could add real briefly to that, is we've created a special revenue line in the general fund under license and permits to track those reimbursements, so we can watch them on a month-to-month basis on how we're doing.
Thank you, Bill.
Are the 2 days that Dave comes in going to be the same 2 days every week?
That was really, we had based it on Tuesday and Thursday. And as I noted, the manager actually negotiated additional hours for the township, but they could be other days. But Tuesdays and Thursdays has worked, and I think people are used to that, so we schedule accordingly.
Okay, thanks.
But Mr. Lay has always been amenable to switching to a different day if there was, something large we had to take care of.
Okay, any public comment on this item? This is Resolution 2011-124. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I'll move to authorize requests for proposals for plan review services.
Second.
Board comment?
Well, I don't really know what this is.
Commissioner, what we're looking to do here is we have in-house staff to do all the plan reviews. They're also part of the codes officials that do the inspections.
These subdivision plans?
No, this is actually for building plans, for plan reviews. So as they're submitted, so one of the things we want to be able to look at is it cost effective for us to outsource these, which then would be a direct pass-through for these expenses, and if the opportunity would allow itself to free up our in-house staff to get caught up on some of these other inspections, as well as property maintenance enforcement and other issues that impact that department, from student rentals to property maintenance issues as well. So this is something we want to take a look at. Is this set in stone, the direction it goes? No, this is just something for us to do some fact-finding on it and be able to come back to the Board of Commissioners and make a recommendation that we're efficiently working in-house, or can we free up some additional time for our in-house staff.
So this firm or professional or whoever it is would be reviewing building plans within the permitting process? Like they would be the one saying?
That's correct. They'd be making plan comments. Our hope is to be to expedite those, to move those through quickly, and again, too, those are pass-through costs.
But then ultimately somebody from the township would either grant the permit or not?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Any further comment from the board? Questions? Okay, public comment? Okay, all those in favor to authorize the request for proposals for plan services, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
That's it. Under
Thank you, Commissioner
Public
Spengler.
Works and Engineering.
Commissioner Curley, Community Development.
Yes, Bob or John, would you just explain that item X to us? The electric vehicle charging station.
Right. As the board might recall, you had a presentation from Jay Carless probably 2 months ago regarding the installation of this facility in Wayne within a township parking lot that would provide for, basically it's a charging station for cars that would run on electricity. I believe this would be the first one along the main line. EAC has worked on this. I know Elaine has worked on this. But this is the agreement that spells out the terms and conditions. There's a monthly host fee. There's also a $5 per day fee. And I believe they're in the process of connecting to township electricity. And I think Steve's been working on that with
How are we going to monitor? Because I didn't see anything in here that talked about metering. How are we monitoring how much electricity they use?
Actually, they would be tying into the senior center to get that electricity, and they would meter what they use, so we would know for reimbursement purposes exactly what was used through the charging station.
I don't see any requirement in here for a meter. Am I missing something? Sure.
Just to finish, this is a three-year term on this agreement also.
Hi, everybody. Jay Carlos. Thanks for having me again. There is a meter within the unit, so we will have a report at our hands whenever we want it.
You don't need to put a separate meter.
We don't need to put a separate meter. Yeah.
You may be able. I have another question on a clause here, John. Okay. And you might want to stay there.
I will.
I found item 10.1 odd. In the case of a change of control, we have It requires our consent. But if we don't give consent, you can terminate this agreement and leave your meter, your unit there.
Yes.
That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, John. They're supposed to, at the end of this agreement, they were supposed to return it to the state in which it started. That's just, in my mind, a little bit of a, punitive action because we didn't approve their ability to sell their business to somebody they wanted to, with this piece included.
Kevin, which paragraph?
10.1, the last sentence.
Successors and assigns.
Says, the last sentence says, in the event that they request the assignment and it's not approved, they may terminate this agreement with no further liability except for 13.4, which is the indemnification. Doesn't say anything about the requirement to remove the unit they installed.
I think if this is terminated, they're under an obligation to remove the unit.
But that's not what that says. It says, again, you're the lawyer.
Well, that paragraph doesn't say it.
No, but it says if they terminate because we didn't give them consent,
Right.
they have no other obligations.
That's in the event that they sell the business.
Right. Well, that's probably what they're intending to do, is my suspicion.
Well, if I can speak to that, we did have a good discussion with Mary Eberly, outside counsel. She was a pleasure to work with. We went back and forth on this. What we've clearly written in here, or at least the intent, is it's a direct or indirect change of control of the business. So this isn't us deciding that we want to sell this particular unit to some other party. This is direct. Okay.
It's over your company, and you, because we say we're not going to give you consent to move this, to sign this agreement to them,
Right.
then you can terminate this and we have to remove the unit.
You don't have to remove the unit.
We could leave it for no reason.
Well, for the use of the public. It becomes, property of the township, and the public can use the charging station just as it did before.
Kevin, your concern might be addressed in Section 7.
7.3.
7.3, and it says, upon termination of this agreement for any reason. So if this is terminated for any reason under this lease, they have the obligation to remove. So that clarifies.
That's inconsistent then, which
I'll
makes
just
lawyers
say-
money.
I'll suggest
Well,
changing,
it's-
to make it
It says for
consistent,
any reason, though.
but, no, because we have to
Commissioner
vote
have
on it. I would suggest
I wanna
changing
vote
the
on what the
wording in
lawyer-
10.1, the last sentence to say, as described in sections 7.3 and section 13.4. And then there's referential integrity between the two clauses.
But maybe you don't want to have them remove it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe
if
we
it's
wanna
going to
leave
be
it there
an
and owned
amenity
by the
which we can
township.
use in the future, why would you want to force them to take it out? Shouldn't it be our option to
Well, that would be
require
in,
them to do
that would be in 7.3, it would need to have that.
Is that okay, Jay? If it would
Can
be
you repeat
our
that?
option to say to you, in the event of your assigning your business or the location to another company, that if we didn't approve of that it would be our option to have you remove it or not.
Well, I would like to be able to check with our counsel, but I think that, it's something that seems reasonable.
I think that's probably acceptable. One other question. How do you envision this thing running? Somebody pulls up in their car, assuming it's not being used, they plug it in, and how do they pay for it?
They will have a tag that they can kind of swipe by, similar to the gas stations, like the mobile speed pass or something like that. They run it past, and it connects to their credit card, and they will be billed through their credit card.
And it's designed for somebody who obviously has an electric car, who might be coming to our town for dinner or something like that, and just want to charge their car up.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And I apologize, I may have missed the comment on the meter. Currently, it's a metered parking space.
Right.
My concern was that if all of our parking spaces are metered by ordinance, so we would have to rescind the meter on that, because we currently have a pay meter.
Right.
We don't have, the fees are set. We don't ordain that right here there's a meter, and right here there's a meter, and right here.
Actually, we do that.
So.
We
By
set-
number?
No, but we set like parking areas and we determined that we're going to put meters in. I think that was done by ordinance.
Right, but if we're taking a parking spot out,
It's not.
then
Well,
the meter, I mean, it's
yeah.
going out of service, so.
So I just want to ask this question, I don't know if it was already addressed. What if someone pulls into that location and doesn't pay and just leaves their car? Are they under the parking ordinance now? And if so, is it enforceable without a actual meter in place?
They'll get towed.
Under what authority? I want to know what the authority is.
I think we could probably pass an ordinance which would restrict the use of the parking there to vehicles that are going to utilize the service and give us the authority to do whatever we have to do, including taking them away.
Agreed. So
It's
maybe
one-
as part of this, we'll make sure that we do that to ensure that no one squats in that parking space.
Yeah, and we are paying to the township the fees associated with the full usage of that spot according to its current cost per hour.
How long does it take to charge one of these things?
The current model, the current vehicle models, they can take a long time. It can take 6 hours to fully charge. So, what we're really talking about is people being able to sort of top off, if you will. Use the gasoline analogy. The next level of electric vehicles should charge about twice as fast.
Okay. Should we move to table this to allow council time to discuss it? Or do we not need that?
It's up to Mr. Carlos. I mean, what I heard was that we want to tie the assignment provisions into 7.3, so that's a relatively minor change in the agreement.
But you also want to have the option of removal on the township, meaning we can require them to remove it.
7.3 would have
He said he needed
to.
to check with his council on that.
Well, why don't we approve it, assuming that they agree, and if they don't agree, we'll revisit it.
It'll come back.
It'll
I mean,
come
you can
back.
approve it with the changes
Yeah.
that you want. I'd like to get the board to act on this, and then if they have an issue, we'll bring it back to you at the next meeting.
Which clause specifies the removal?
7.3.
7.3.
That way they can go ahead and get going with this project.
John, what's the word you're giving us?
Well,
He
under
wants to do-
7.3, if you go to B.
No, I understand that, but. what- how
Shall
do-
within 30 days after termination, remove the EVCS from the premises. That should say remove or, at the township's discretion,
Okay.
have it remain.
Okay.
I mean, that's basically, I think, what we're looking for here.
All right.
Or remove if the township requests that it be removed. But that would be the change in 7.3, and then that other minor change in 10.1.
I'll move the approval with those two changes.
I have one last question.
Yeah, I have a few
Refresh my memory why you came to us and didn't go back to one of the businesses that own a parking spot. Why did you decide to come to the government to get this?
Well, we believe that it's a public service because there are people who have these vehicles. They're going to want to use
Gas car. They don't give me special parking.
Well, and I wouldn't argue that this is special parking. It is a parking spot in the lot, and it's available for use for these types of vehicles.
Done that by going to Rite Aid and putting it in their spot or going to the
So the
Sunoco
good news is the
station.
majority of the board voted to use a public spot.
That is true.
And not everybody voted for it, I understand, but the majority of the board favors that, so let's move forward.
Well, I have two questions, though. Was anyone in the business district WBA consulted on losing a parking spot? Does anybody know?
No one's losing a parking spot. There's going to be a car in that parking spot. So it's not as
I
if
think
it's,
someone's losing a parking spot. It may be worthwhile, but somebody would have been able to park for some function in Wayne.
it's still a parking spot.
The commissioners are in favor of losing one parking
Bill, I'm
spot
still
for this.
entitled to get answers to the
I know,
questions.
I know, but, you know.
And then
Yeah, Bill,
one other
just let us
question is, could it be problematic that someone would use it as a parking spot, come in the morning, plug in, charge all day? So it's sort of not the intent. But one user could use it all day, which isn't the public service input or idea that you have.
Currently, the spot that we've selected with consultation from members of the staff is one of the 10-hour parking spots. So I think it's functionally a spot that currently has a use similar to what you described.
Very good.
So therefore, I don't see it as a problem. Our business doesn't see it as a problem. If people are charging there, we're very pleased with that.
Very good. Thank you.
You going to give us any kind of report on usage?
I would be glad to.
We're waiting for a second.
Yeah, Commissioner Spengler has moved to adopt this agreement with the change in 7.3B to say remove or at the township discretion have it remain. Do I have a second?
Second.
And
Any
also,
further board
there was
comment?
also another change,
What was the second change?
10.1.
7.3.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
my original, yes.
Okay.
So, to me, this is a mistake. I'm going to vote against it. I think we're not getting enough for what we're giving up. And I'm not sure that bringing a fueling station or station or a charging station into the downtown is optimum. And then lastly, I do think it would be better in some other lot, someplace around the center, in some sort of private entity that would issue you a spot or rent you a spot.
I'd like to make just a comment. I want to make sure that we thank the EAC who brought this project to our attention, especially Brenda Gotanda and Sloan Walker, who have really kind of heralded this along. I'm thrilled. I think this is an extraordinary project. I'm so thrilled that Radnor can be on the forefront of this. We have a tradition of being on the forward-thinking, one of the more forward-thinking municipalities with our recycling program, with our composting program, with our tub grinder, with a very aggressive open space program. We have, and this is along that tradition of being forward-thinking. I hope that lots of people see that spot and go out and buy an electric vehicle, and that we can be a part of that movement. I'd love to see signage that calls attention to this so that when people get off the train, they see it and know it's there. I hope that we can call attention to it on our website and in our newsletter so that we can, have our community aware that we're taking this step. And, who knows if this will be the wave of the future, but it's better than gasoline being the wave of our future. So thank you for persevering with us. And, again, thank you to the EAC. And I'm all for it.
And my motion also included Section 10, adding 7.3 and Section 13.4. So we have those two changes.
Okay. John, do you want to just second that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, any further board comment on this? Any public comment on this item? Resolution 2011-128. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries 5-2, noting Commissioner Curley's and Higgins against. That's it for community development. Thank you, Commissioner Curley. Under Personnel Administration, I have a motion to authorize the solicitor to review a Human Relations Commission. The Personnel Administration Committee met last Tuesday, October 4th, before the Board of Commissioners special meeting. We discussed the need for the Human Relations Commission, or the potential need for it. We also discussed the interest in having a resolution by the Board of Commissioners to make a public statement about discrimination in the workplace and housing and public access in terms of the LGBT community. So at this point, I'll move to have the solicitor review the Human Relations Commission in that context and report back to the board the feasibility and his advice of whether or not to go forward on a Human Relations Commission in the township. I'll also include in this motion to have the solicitor review the...
Let's separate the motions, John.
Okay, I'll separate the motion. That is my motion. Do I have a
I second.
Okay. Board comment,
Yeah,
questions?
question. John Rice, can't we stipulate that the legal authority for this exists? I mean, it's out there in
It's
several
not.
municipalities. So I don't know that we need a solicitor to tell us that we have the
Yeah,
authority to do
I mean, you have the power, once you make the decision, to create a Human Rights Commission. I mean,
Right. So,
it's settled, you're a home rule municipality,
Right.
you have the power to do that.
So, I mean, I think if there's further action be taken, it doesn't require the solicitor. I think this is the time for the volunteers to come to us and say, this is why this is a good idea, and present us the information. So in my opinion, it's premature to, or inappropriate for us to do this with the solicitor because it's not legal knowledge that we require. It's a policy decision.
Well, that may be, but I think we're looking to the solicitor to tell us if we go forward with this proposal, what is it going to look like? What is it going to take to set up a Human Relations Commission? What kind of manpower, hours, expense is it going to require? Because I think you have experience with this sort of entity in some of the other townships you represent or your firm represents. So I'd like to hear that kind of information back before we go forward with it.
Well, what I will provide to you, and Don's right, the power is there, but you have a handful of municipalities, one of which is Lower Merion, which is right next door. You have Doylestown, you have the city of Allentown, you have State College.
Haverford passed it also.
Haverford passed it and is apparently in a lawsuit over theirs. So I'm going to give you that information. Here's what these municipalities, and this was on your agenda a while back, so I have a fair amount of information which I've been collecting. And then it's a policy decision. What is covered? Are there exemptions? What are the exemptions? And how does it mesh with the state law? Because you have a state Human Rights Commission Act, which doesn't cover certain groups in terms of discrimination. So I'll just lay that out. But ultimately, it's going to be a decision. Once you get that, I won't send you an ordinance. I don't want to go through that, drafting of that, but I can send you samples of what it would look like, how it would be set up, how many, it's 5 or 7 people typically on the other local municipal commissions, and then it comes back as a policy decision in terms of going forward. Costs, I can try to find out what costs have been. I can tell you if there's a lawsuit, it'll be expensive because you'll have to enforce your ordinance. A lot of the townships have done a really nice job. Lower Merion has a sort of a step, various steps along the way. One involves mediation before you get to the end, and State College has something similar before you get to the end where, and this board would have to authorize some kind of litigation to enforce your ordinance. If mediation doesn't work, if conciliation doesn't work, if negotiation doesn't work, that's the end of the day is where you end up with this, just like any ordinance. So I'll just spell that out for you and bring it back. It may be not your next meeting, but I would think in November, your first meeting in November, I should have something for you.
When will we get and who will provide some kind of summary or evidence of the problem that we're trying to find or trying to solve? Will someone do that for us to sort of identify the discrimination that because right now we haven't had any information. No one's provided us anything that tells us that there's a problem that we should be solving. So other than speculation, I'd like to see an indication that there's a problem, and then if there is a problem, we go out and we try to solve the problem. Will that be part of what you're going to present to us, John? Or so
the only way that I think that could be done is for people to show up here whenever you discuss it, or if it gets to the point of an ordinance and describe it, or do some kind of analysis within the other municipalities. The board wants me to contact State College solicitor, the city of Allentown solicitor. Doylestown is relatively new, so I don't know what their experience is, but I could try to get some idea of what the history has been for similar.
At some point, to make an educated decision, I need to know what the problem is and how this remedy will solve the problem. So whether that's you or someone else, but at some point, that's the information that I need to make a decision.
Well, what I'm offering to do is to make those phone calls, or I will have someone follow up in those municipalities. Not to try to convince you, but to provide those facts
I just want the data. No.
And, I mean, I'm curious, too, what the history has been, because Allentown's has been on the books for quite a while, and that's I think, the third largest state, the city in the state still. So they may have at least some kind of a rule of thumb in terms of how much activity it is, how much cost is involved. So I will get what I can get in those areas from those municipalities that have some history.
As a caveat to that, I'll just say that discrimination in housing and in the workplace is the most underreported incident that can occur. There's shame on both sides when these things happen, and absence of a major lawsuit, you probably wouldn't even know it's happening right in the same workplace that you're in. So I respect your desire, Don, to have that information, but I'll argue that in absence of proof doesn't mean it isn't happening, and in fact, the ordinances tend to have a more communicative part to them, in that you're conveying to the public not to do certain
Just
things.
in fairness to my position, though, at no point did I ask for proof. All I want is information to make a decision. I mean, we don't have any paper. We have nothing submitted with this, and we're being asked to commit township resources.
I think this is the first step. This is the point is we do not have anything formal from John Rice, so this is why we're doing this.
Well, and I'm going to support this tonight because I think there's enough people in Radnor. I mean, I don't know the answer. I want the data. And there's enough people in Radnor that probably feel the same way. So I'm going to support this tonight for that reason.
All right, any further board comment on this item? Any public comment? Harry, Jim.
Is his first name Harry?
I'm just a suggestive thought.
My name is Jim Schneller. I live at St. David's Condo. I'm also a principal with Philadelphia Metro Task Force, and we actually have been going to half a dozen townships this summer and this fall, trying to explain to boards what the exact situation is. And it's a very solemn and important issue, and it's something we hope that Radnor, naturally, being a place that's known for its feet on the ground, would have a good look at, starting with any initial look. And I don't think, frankly, you would take a step past tonight's discussion if you knew the facts. And I want to give you a couple of basic facts that have been quickly revealed to anyone who attends these meetings and watches, especially public interaction. We are, by the way, a pro-family value and a pro-traditional rearing organization. We have members in all 5 counties. We vehemently oppose the fact that these ordinances have the great potential and, in fact, the focus of infusion of a sexual promiscuity into the youth of the country. We've seen it in action. If there was ever a book I could recommend, it's called Marriage Under Fire by James Dobson. I am giving you a couple of facts that will indicate that the nature of these ordinances is not what they seem. We have consistently witnessed high-level state agency heads and senators stating that the sole purpose of these ordinances is to get enough townships at current number 22, there are 1% of the state. They want to have enough municipalities to take to Harrisburg and say, we need an ordinance. As you're all probably aware, the act does not include sexual orientation. I have to remind you that sexual orientation, as defined by any homosexual activist groups, includes the other 20 types of orientation, which descend rather from what makes homosexuality look rather timid. And these are constantly put forth to the townships, and they're in the laws, because by defining sexual orientation, you will create a far different condoning by your body and by the people of Radnor that currently exists. To jump to what currently exists, I note that in the Township of Abington, which has decided not to pass one of these ordinances last June, the police chief came out and noted, someone said, where are the statistics? And he had none. Now, we have laws on the book that prohibit harassment, stalking. These would often include a component that certainly would be recording an element of discrimination if it was included. The HRC and HRA, in fact, or the commission at any rate, demands these statistics, including about orientation. Nothing. I would ask at some point, if need be, and I presume our township would have no examples. This supports the fact that the ordinances are not just a figurehead, but an implementation of political Trojan horse. I will then skip, because there's much to do, and I think it came out already in your discussion, the fact that there is a lot of complexity here. But the fact is that when these have been passed in other states and townships, they have led to rather severe consequences beyond the traditional costs. One of them is the fact that civil partners is typically the next step. They may wait 5 years, 7 years, but the next request is usually, as in Allentown, who just passed one, a request that civil partners gain township financing, pensions, medical care, etc. On a more troubling note, these ordinances all contain a punitive type of arrangement. The best example we know is a year and a half ago in Oklahoma, a couple who owns a photography studio refused to photograph a civil union ceremony in Oklahoma City, and they were subsequently fined $9,000. This was upheld by a court. America is not the place where a photographer should be told how to run their business, and it isn't. And suddenly we have this niche in the law popping
Jim,
up.
could you please keep your comments specific to the motion on the table, which is to authorize our solicitor to review HRC?
Yes. The point being that this would radically change the scenario of Radnor Township's viewpoint on small businesses. Small businesses are often coming forward and talking about this. If it's above 4 employees, typically, well, almost everyone uses 4 employees, and they are stuck being told about a great swath of their hiring ability. I want to give you the more prominent reasons why the solicitor shouldn't even be approached with this matter. I believe that we've talked about Lower Merion and Havertown. We are not either of those townships, and I think Radnor has a bit of a duty. That is because Radnor is the first township we've seen that of its nature where there is no town center that has a focus orientation, a set of nightclubs, a group of people, and with the fact of statewide legislation really in doubt, of federal legislation even more in doubt, you could be left in the long term being, quote, gay friendly. There's nothing wrong with gay friendly as long as it's not gay magnet. And I think there's a line to be drawn there, and I think the majority of the population agrees. Finally, we have a referendum function implement in our charter, and this certainly would be an opportunity to table the item and inform. I believe maybe this is what you had intended when you informally tabled the item in April, or was it February, to see maybe if a referendum could surface. Does anyone in the room know, does any of the commissioners know if a referendum has been
Jim, this is
attempted?
public comment only.
Okay. Regardless, with that kind of democratic solution, I ask you and implore you that, especially because God made us men and women, and we can't avoid the obvious fact that engineering of human nature is just an idea of the few that's attempted to be put on the many. And you would have no appearance of discrimination or of condoning discrimination to let this stand towards their interest in trying a referendum out. And finally, I didn't get to
Jim, please, you're going to have to wrap up. We do want to move on. You've already said finally twice now.
I didn't get, that's one of my favorite implements.
I'll give you 30 seconds.
If
One of ours do, Jim. Sorry.
I'd like to know the impetus. I wasn't at the committee meeting, and I object to the fact it wasn't written on the agenda. But is there an impetus from below? Because typically this kind of ordinance has resulted from people showing up and asking. We've had one citizen come and ask. No one has come in the next 9 months. And I want to know, where's this coming from?
It's public comment. Thank you for your comment.
So thank you.
Okay, call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And as a secondary motion, I would like also to provide John Rice with a draft of a resolution, which would simply be a statement on the township's behalf in the same context of this original motion. So I will motion to have John Rice review the resolution that we have from our committee and also comment on that. It's a very short one-page
I don't remember the committee
resolution.
taking a vote at all on any kind of resolution the other night.
Well, we didn't call a question in the committee, but it doesn't stop me from putting the resolution before us right now.
So, but
but
you're
you need to
asking us to
characterize
vote
it
on
correctly.
something we haven't seen and don't have
No,
before us.
we don't. No, we're asking John Rice to prepare a resolution for us to review for a subsequent introduction.
Are these the meeting minutes from the committee meeting, or
No, this would be
a proposed resolution?
This would be a resolution by the township stating that a proclamation of sorts, about discrimination in the
But it's been drafted.
It's very loosely drafted. We actually would like you to draft. We'll give you the
You
documentation.
keep using we, and look, I stated at the meeting, I'm not opposed to an affirmative statement about non-discrimination in the township, but I'm very concerned about the choice of the word we that you're using to characterize what occurred at that meeting, and I suspect it's more just loose choice of wording than anything, but I think when you say we, you mean you.
And John, isn't the purpose of what we just approved to sort of gather information to?
Yeah, I mean,
it
that
sounds
was
like
I think I'm going to, if there's something that was discussed at that meeting, I would ask it that you send it to me, whatever.
Yeah, well, I'll include that. I'll send that to you. You don't have to do, the point is here that all I'm asking John Rice to do is to do the work that is normal course of business, which is to prepare resolutions and ordinances.
But a resolution and an ordinance has a conclusion to it. And the point of the last resolution was to gather data to make a policy choice. And you're skipping ahead to the policy choice, as I see it. So to me, we're sort of getting ahead of...
Well, for discussion purposes, so. At this point, John, I'll just forward those drafts of various resolutions from other townships for the review and presentation back to the board.
Okay.
Okay. That's it under Personnel Administration. I did want to bring up that we have from the, before I move on, and this is more under, I guess, engineering. The management has asked us to consider having a meeting in December for stormwater quality management. And I just wanted to float a few dates out there because we already have a pretty full schedule. At this point, I see Tuesday, December 6th available. This, again, would be a special meeting of the Board of Commissioners to discuss stormwater quality management and to review all the past work that has gone on in this topic and to look at this from a policy decision. So just keep that in mind. Again, that would be Tuesday, December the 6th. This, again, is part of this calendar that was presented to us by administration. It's the very top item.
I have in my calendar that there's a planning commission meeting that night.
That may be possible. Let me check to see. I'll send some dates out to the board, but I just wanted to get it on our radar because as we get through the budget season, we start to get very busy, and I want to make sure that we at least get back to stormwater quality management because I can see it not getting back to if we don't make a focus on that. So just putting that out there. That's it under Personnel Administration. Library Commissioner Schaefer.
I have Two announcements. The first is that the library has won a prestigious award, one of the Best Practices Award from the Pennsylvania Library Association. It was for recognition of exceptional service to school-aged children in connection with the LEGO program they do. Programs in 62 libraries were recommended or considered, and only 6 were winners, and Radnor was the only winner in this for school-aged children programming. So kudos to our library. Secondly, the Friends of the Library Big Book Sale is coming up. It's the first weekend of November, the 4th to the 6th. If you are a friend or member of a member of the Friends of the Library, you can go Friday night, the 4th, and get first pickings. So it's well worth becoming a member. They raise a lot of money for our library. And then on Saturday and Sunday, there are hours for everyone. And it's worth noting that it's not just books. There are DVDs and CDs and records, I think, even LPs, and puzzles and toys and games and whatnot. So that is the weekend of November 4th to the 6th. Thanks. That's it for library.
Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer. Nothing under public health. Commissioner Nagel, Parks and Recreation.
Nothing under Parks and Rec. There is a meeting this Thursday for Parks and Rec Board.
All right, thank you. Any old business? Any new business?
Yeah, I have an item. I'd like to ask this board to support that we give direction to the manager and whoever he needs to work with to go to SEPTA and see if we can't move a project of theirs. The retaining wall at the Glenbrook Park municipal parking lot is falling down. There's currently a huge cave-in. And Steve, did they get the fencing up today?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Nagel, I don't know if they did or not yet.
But it's going to require that we fence off one whole lane of that parking lot, losing us 18 spaces. Plus, it is a safety hazard. And I think the point that SEPTA doesn't really acknowledge is it's quite a risk for their service, because this could well tumble onto their tracks. And what we heard the other day when we met with them was next summer before the project could be completed. And I just think that's untenable. So I would like to have staff approach them to try to see if they can't get it moved up, put it on their emergency list, whatever they need to do.
Why can't Bob just do that without us? Do you need some kind of authorization?
Well, what I'd like to suggest, I think, to John's point, is the board authorized us to send a letter asking SEPTA to make this an emergency repair and to move it up in their schedule.
So move.
Second.
I'm not opposed to it, but why do you need us to ask you to do? Can't you just do that with your own authority?
We can, but it's good when the Board of Commissioners stand behind it. I think you carry a little more clout as the
So
Board
you
of
would say in the
Commissioners.
letter that on Monday, October 10th.
At 5 and 9.
That's correct. That's correct.
No, 8:56.
I took a look at the photograph that John sent around to the commissioners this weekend, and I got to tell you, if it's not an emergency, I don't know what is, because that whole parking lot's collapsing towards the track, and it's only going to get worse.
One or
So-
two more rains, and if we have any more of those torrential downpours. I mean, Steve went up one day, put up some tape, moved the barriers around because we already knew there was an issue, and the next day, one of the barriers had fallen in.
I mean, a car could park too closely to it, and that could go down in a rainstorm. So I'm supporting it.
Okay. So I have a motion by Commissioner Spengler and second by Schaefer. Any other board comment? Any public comment? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
And it's the motion made by Commissioner Spengler and seconded by Commissioner Schaefer.
I'm sorry.
Not Schaefer, Commissioner Schaefer.
I'm saying commissioners, but
I know.
I'm slurring my words.
Okay, all right.
All right, at this point, we'll have public participation.
Hello, Jim Schneller, St. David's Park. I have the pleasure of living across the street from a Planned Parenthood, and as some of you may be aware, I've been holding signs. There's a group, we have a pro-life group here that prays, stands vigil, and otherwise makes public awareness of the fact that abortion is controversial. I ask the Township to please, as soon as possible, make a determination whether there has been a change in use at this location, because in the past 10 days, there has, to our perception and our knowledgeable perception, if I might, been an abrupt change. We know that there is a mandate from Planned Parenthood Central that procedures of abortion take place in all of their facilities by the 1st of 2012, and we now detect that there are women with nurses with stethoscopes, and there are escort guards. Planned Parenthood does not expend the money for escort guards unless they're doing procedures. I asked the department to please make a determination if there's been a change of use, and if there has, to initiate proceedings to evict or otherwise gain equity from the occupant. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if we can, Jim, if you could put that in writing to us,
Yes.
we'd appreciate that. Great, thank you.
Any other public participation?
Second.
We're going to move into executive session. We're adjourning. Thank you.